Hi, I'm Rochelle Courtenay from Share the Dignity, and welcome to another bloody podcast. We are bringing you this podcast so that you can hear from the women that we help, the people that help us to share the dignity and the difference that we make. Today I'm joined by Rhiannon, a mum of two who received an It's in the Bag during one of the most challenging periods of her life. Did you ever have to go without period products?
Yeah, you have to use things that you wouldn't normally use. So there were times when I thought, gosh, I'm going to leak.
And what does that do to your mental health?
I think it makes you feel like a failure, it makes you feel like you've really messed up.
After leaving a situation involving domestic violence, she was navigating single motherhood, uncertainty, and the emotional weight of needing support. As someone who has spent her career supporting others in the mental health and social work space, Rhiannon shares the shame and stigma she felt around asking for help and how receiving an It's in the Bag restores a sense of dignity, choice, and care during a time when she needed it most. Welcome, Rhiannon. We always start our podcast with a would you rather question. So would you rather ask a stranger for help or have a stranger ask you for help?
Definitely have a stranger ask me for help.
It's ingrained in us, right?
Yeah, healthy or not, it's kind of my coping mechanism and it's part of my job. And yeah, I find it really hard to ask other people when it's my turn and I need help. Really hard. Find that really hard to do that.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small village of 800 people in North Wales in the UK.
With 800 people, you'd just about know everybody's name, wouldn't you?
That's right, yeah.
And so mum, dad, brothers, sisters, what have you got going on in your family?
So I grew up with mum and dad and 3 brothers. My eldest has got cerebral palsy and a learning difficulty. We stayed there until my father passed away in 86, and then we all moved to the city.
Right. And how old were you when your father passed away?
I was about 4.5, and I'm the youngest, so I think my eldest brother was maybe 11.
Do you remember your dad?
I do. He was gorgeous, had a very Australian accent, had really big personality, big red beard, and was a passionate union representative. So kind of helping people's always been like a really big thing in our family.
What did he pass away from?
It was very sudden. He went away on a business trip and had an allergic reaction to something he ate, and that led to septicemia. And he died very quickly, so he was okay one day and then came home from the business trip and then he had died the following day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have taken a long time for your family to recover from that, right?
Yeah, I guess we're still piecing things together, but we're just very lucky that Mum is a very tough, very well-educated woman who fought really hard for us.
Why did you move from the country to the city?
We moved from the country to the city because my eldest brother has a disability and Mum then had to become a single parent and a full-time worker, and we needed to access services to help support the family. And in the middle of nowhere in the country, there wasn't anything really. So it meant that we could access, a specialist school and equipment and a bit of support with the kids while she was on her way home from work.
And so that was a new life then, right? It was a new chapter in your life when you moved to the city.
Yep, very different.
You talked about being a 14-year-old girl who struggled with anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
What do you think that related to?
I think it was just really tough. I think moving from a different culture, having a single mother who had to share her time around, having a brother with a disability, so we always kind of felt different, and we kind of went from being fairly well off to really struggling. So I kind of struggled to fit in, and of course, being a young female, there was lots of sort of traumatic events that happened along the way also that added to that, and it all comes to a head when you start going through hormones and finding out who you are and becoming a teenager, and I think it all just got a bit too much.
Did you finish school at that stage then?
No, so I got so depressed that I actually, for a period of time, just stopped talking and withdrew. And I had a year off from school, just trying to recover. And then my mother said, right, let's see how you do at a further education college, and wrote to them and got me accepted. And I think the plan was just to see if I would get out the house and if it would just help a little bit. But I actually did really, really well. And I stayed there for 4 years and got some qualifications and started going into nursing, and then decided to become a social worker.
There are a lot of things that happened to you with the death of your dad, the moving, all of those things. Did anyone ever suggest that you should get some psychological help?
When I was 14, I got so depressed that I actually saw a children's psychologist and a psychiatrist for a short period of time that I would go and see kind of once or twice a week. But then that gradually kind of dissipated because I was showing like lots of improvement then.
Were you masking it?
Yeah, I think partly. But it is hard looking at trauma when you're that age. And I think you need to kind of have a bit of life and develop some skills before you actually start looking at things. And I did really, really well. And then until I got into my 20s. And then I think I had another spate of depression when my ex-husband left abruptly after a 10-year relationship. So then I got a bit of support then. Did really well again. Moved to Australia, started a fresh life. And then recently had another relationship breakup. It was really, really tough. And so I think now I've decided that kind of psychology is something that you build in to your routine, particularly in the job that I do and the things that I've seen. I've worked in the prisons for 5 years, and you see a lot of pretty horrific things. So it's kind of like something that's I just need now as maintenance.
It's like having a personal trainer, right? It's just a personal training for your brain, just trying to work out what needs to be unpacked. Yeah,
that's right.
What does life look like for you now in Australia?
Well, I've got a wonderful job that I really love. It's very hopeful, and it helps young people with mental health difficulties. And that really gives me such a great sense of purpose that I'm sort of helping to change the trajectory of many of these young people and that they don't end up accessing the prison system. So the job really pushes me forward and keeps me going in between my two beautiful children who are just everything for me.
How old are your babies?
A son who's almost 2. I've got a daughter who's just turned 6. And then my purpose and the reason I do everything. So, yeah, I work full time and then I look after them in the evenings. I mean, I wish I had more time for them, but, it's all a balancing act. And then, every weekend it's a case of getting the house ready and trying to give them some meaningful activity so they have a happy childhood.
And tell me about how you came to receive a bag.
So I was in a relationship for 10 years and we struggled financially. My partner fell out of work and he got into a real deep depression and just stopped doing anything really, just stopped working. That happened not long after I gave birth, so I was on mat leave and he really struggled to ask for help, so he wouldn't sort of go to Centrelink, and the months went on and on and on until we sort of hit Christmas time and I realised I didn't have anything to give the kids, I didn't have any presents, I didn't have any food, and I couldn't get him to do anything about it or to get any help. And he was, getting quite angry as well. And it just got harder and harder. And in the end, I just started looking for any ways that I could to support the kids. So I went to food banks.
How hard was that?
It was really hard. I've never had to do that before. I've always managed financially, always. I've never loaned any money. I've always been 100% self-sufficient from a young age. So it was super hard.
How old was your baby then?
6-9 months, something like that.
Okay.
It's expensive. You've got 4 people and you've got just mat leave pay that's going down and down each month. So I was thinking, should I be going back to work sooner? But then also physically struggling from having the baby. So I ended up picking up stuff from the food banks and stocking up with loads of pasta and cheap things, making cheap meals. And I managed to access some material aid for sort of Christmas presents. So we had some toys and some books and clothing, and it was wonderful. And I just kind of said to myself, well, look, I've never done this before and I just need some help to get myself back on my feet, and then I'll make sure it never happens again. A couple of colleagues knew how much I was struggling, and there were bags delivered to the centre, and they said, look, you really need one of these. I was really reluctant to take it because it's, what we give out to everybody else, but I needed it, and it was lovely. It had things in there that didn't feel like material aid. There was a quality shampoo and conditioner and sanitaries and a hairbrush and some lip gloss and some hand cream and stuff that kind of made you feel like you're looking after yourself. And most importantly was the card inside the bag, which, you know, sort of I really held on to and gave me a real kind of motivation and a boost and a feeling that there are women out there who are in exactly the same boat and understand that you need help sometimes. So,
What did your card say?
you know, something along the lines of, you've got this.
If that's all you remember, you got this. Sometimes that's all I write on my card is, you got this.
Yeah.
Because what else can you lend somebody other than just the hope that this will all end and that soon you'll be in a better place, right?
And that someone else is hoping happiness for you and saying it's okay.
What was your favourite thing in there?
Definitely the card, because the sentiment is worth more than everything that was in there. But also the fact that I had some quality shampoo and conditioner. It's such a ridiculous vain thing, but you know, when you go to Material Aid, you get sort of like, I don't know, it almost feels like cheap hotel sample shampoo and conditioner that kind of, you know, makes your hair feel dry and you start to feel more like you're deteriorating. So to be able to wash your hair and put a bit of conditioner in it and look presentable really changes your outlook for the day.
Isn't that interesting? There's so many women who talk about the power of a shampoo and conditioner.
Yes.
That the smell or the feel or the way that the shampoo and conditioner makes you feel. I think that's such an important thing for us who put together a bag to understand, right?
And everyone sees your hair, you know, it's out there and they can kind of see if it's scruffy and dry, and it makes a real big impression in terms of your self-care and presentation for the day. And if I want to go to work and I want to still look professional even though I'm struggling, you know, you got to have clean hair.
So funny. You know what my favourite shampoo and conditioner is? Fructus. And it's the green apple one.
Yeah.
And it's like you can sometimes get it for $2.
Yeah.
It's my favourite smell.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
So it doesn't have to be expensive.
No.
But, you know,
I don't know how it makes my hair feel, but I just love the smell of it. One woman who had received a bag, who'd been shot in her home and left in an ambulance, talked about how in her bag, her little denim bag that she got, was 2 packets of pads. And she talked about getting 2 packets of pads for Christmas, like it meant everything to her, you know, like getting a doll when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, cry baby.
When you're struggling, it's anything that helps, and you do get into that mentality of, I need to stockpile as much as possible and really calculate exactly what you need for the months coming up. Having that stuff and it being of a reasonable quality really keeps you going.
What would you say to the person who put together your bag?
Thank you so much. You really pushed me on and kept me going and made me feel less ashamed, and it was really pretty and it made me feel like a woman.
Did you ever have to, in that time, go without period products?
Yeah, it's also really hard that if, let's say, you have to use things that you wouldn't normally use. So gone to Material Aid and they've given you some tampons, but these are kind of tampons that are designed for teenagers, let's say, or, you know, and I've just had a baby. So things look very different for me, and you might need to use multiple products to get you through the month. So yeah, the stuff that was in there was great. You know, they had like bigger pads and it was helpful.
And so when you were not being able to afford period products before you went to get help, did you always have period products available to you, or did you have to use other methods?
I don't think I ever had to use other methods because I'm very fortunate that they do stock some at work. But yeah, there were times when I thought, gosh, I'm going to leak and I'm in the middle of my job. They're not big enough. And sometimes as well, you might think, right, well, I'm just going to space these out through the day. So maybe you wouldn't change it as often as you would do if you had an abundant supply.
And what does that do to your mental health when you're trying to help somebody else get through their mental health, but you're trying to make a pad or a tampon last a little bit longer, right?
Yeah. I think it makes you feel like a failure, you know. It makes you feel like you've really messed up and that you've made some bad choices in life. Yeah, it really kind of like knocks your confidence, and there's had to be a lot of self-talk after that about the fact that I did everything in my power to look after myself. And I guess if I hadn't entered a relationship, then maybe, you know, this probably wouldn't have happened. first baby was IVF, and I think we were getting close then. We were at a point where I said, if things don't change, then we're going to split up. I'm going to give you a year to do X, Y, and Z. And if that doesn't happen, I have to move out for the welfare of my daughter. And then miraculously, I found out I was pregnant again. So
what a blessing.
So it was blessing, but the timing sucked because I was kind of really trapped then. I was like, I can't leave now. I need someone to help me get through the pregnancy and to help me look after the daughter. And it just went on and on. And then I think it got to the stage when he was getting so angry all the time and, yelling and shouting during every mealtime, and I was walking on eggshells, that I just said, this is having an impact on my daughter and there's no saving this. I have to go.
Yeah. Did he ever hit you?
He never hit me, but I got very scared at times. And I didn't feel like I could share my thoughts and feelings. I remember, one night when he really lost his temper because I said I was enjoying watching maths, which is a bit embarrassing. But I said, I've got a chat group with my colleagues about maths episode. And he really lost his temper and said, I don't want to hear anything about this. I don't like the programme. It got to the point where he was sort of, saying, I need to leave the house before I smash the whole place up. And I knew then that this is just way off the scale, and I shouldn't be living in an environment where I can't just talk about.
Yeah. You didn't feel safe.
Didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
He felt so unpredictable. At that stage, he wasn't doing anything and just letting it all happen, and I deserve more.
Yes, you do. And so do your children, right? Your children deserve to watch more. Somebody respect and love you and feel safe.
And know how to manage their anger and their emotions. This is just teaching them the wrong ways to do it.
So having two small children and a very angry husband who had his own issues that weren't yours to fix is really hard to break away. What was the catalyst of, right, this is it, this is my line in the sand, this is what I'm going to do?
So the final crunch was the night that he got very angry about me watching maths and talking about that. And my mum was there as well. And we ended up, all of us kind of like barricaded in the front room, I guess. And then when he left the house, my mum said, you really need to go and get some help. I think actually 1-800-RESPECT was the first people that I called. I was actually, really heightened and emotional and just needed to talk it out with somebody. And they were just fantastic. They, gave me some on-the-spot counselling, taught me through it, and persuaded me to go to Orange Door. So I reached out and said, yep, I don't know what to do, but I need some help making a plan. I can't stay like this. I'm going to fall apart. The kids are going to suffer even more. I have to find a way out. They made like a series of referrals. So I got some financial counselling from the Salvos. I got some aid, a little bit of financial support to be able to move. They would help me with finding a safe, appropriate rental. They would even pay for cameras if that was helpful. They did me some counselling and made sure I didn't feel ashamed, and they linked in my children with services to help them with the emotional toll of it all as well. So Orange Door do such an amazing job, and if it wasn't for them, I'd probably still be in it right now.
Years ago, I remember being at a Homeless Connect event, and it was very early on. It was 2015, and I went there with my little pink buckets and pads and tampons to give to people, and I remember meeting this amazing woman. Her name was Marg, and she came out, and I had a pink bucket of pads and one of tampons. It was in August 2015, and she'd come out, and she maybe about 40, and she was really little, and she came out and said, can I take some of these? I said, take whatever you need anyway. And she told me this story about how her and her boys were living in their car, and they just got in their car from Melbourne, and they were living on the Gold Coast because they could shower, because there were showers at every beach stop, and they were barbecuing, and she was buying sausages at night time for like $1, and the bread was $1, and she would live on that and give the boys food to go to school the next day. But she told me about how she'd found a tampon on the floor, still wrapped, and that she'd left that tampon in for 2 days with just toilet paper in her undies because she couldn't afford them otherwise. I was handing her a tampon packet, and I asked her, I was so ignorant back then, it makes me so angry at myself. why didn't you just call 1-800-RESPECT? She goes, oh, I thought that people would take my children off me if I didn't have somewhere to live, and I didn't know that the number existed. And I was handing her the tampon packet, and I thought, oh, imagine if we had 1-800-RESPECT in every tampon packet, and that every woman would see it, and men would never even go to the tampon packet. And I was so excited in 2017 that we were able to do that, because it was really about, if everybody knew the number, then even if you didn't need it, and your friend, you were having this conversation with your friend, she'd say, just ring 1-800-RESPECT. And so I'm super proud of how that one conversation with Marg, who didn't know what she didn't know, was able to, she literally rang 1-800-RESPECT when she left from there. It wasn't the fear of her thinking that her children were going to be taken off her, because the last beating was the last beating for her.
Yeah, and often when you're in those situations, you do hear things like, well, I will take the children off you, and I will tell people that you're not very well, and I will call the cat team on you. And then when you start to hear that often, you do actually start to doubt yourself, and you think, well, maybe I am the problem, maybe I'm toxic, maybe I'm, creating this problem.
That's gaslighting.
It's gaslighting. Yeah.
And how did you safely move? Did you have a conversation with him that said, this is it?
As I was backing out the door on the way to work, I said, I felt really unsafe last night, and I want you to find somewhere else to stay. He said, well, I'll stay in the garage. And I said, no, I want you to be somewhere else. And then Orange Door suggested that I actually called his mum and said I'd really like him to come and stay with you, just to make it more likely that it was going to happen and that someone else knew. And also I was actually worried about how he was going to respond. Was he going to be okay? So we let her know. He got very, very angry with me on the phone, very angry, and was quite unreasonable to start with. Very sort of, I've given you everything and you've done this to me. And he was kind of gaslighting me. But I know that was a coping mechanism for him, and it, there was just too much for him to accept at the time. But it solidified the fact that I'm really nervous about you. I don't know how you're going to respond, and I'm doing the right thing. So we had a safety plan just in case it escalated further. So I had a plan of what I was going to do if he turned up and he would be angry or unreasonable or whatever. So I could flee in the car. I could go to work. I could go to one of my friends in my mum's group, my local mum's group. I had things in the car ready to go. And I had a contact number through Orange Door who, if absolute worst comes to worst, I could go to a refuge, which I wanted to avoid. Good for my kids. But had the plan there in place as a safety net, and was told that if anything escalates, I should call the police straight away. We stayed there while we continued on with the plan to move. And thank goodness he did, he took some time out and he calmed down and did some reflecting, and it kind of worked out. And yeah, we managed to get a new rental. And I think I turned that round in a 3-month period altogether. Moved everything over. Managed to keep the kids in the school so I don't disrupt their lives too much. Yeah, we got there.
Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a face to somebody that we put together a bag for. It's really brave of you. Thank you.
Thanks.